with Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker is there are two components to me wanting to talk about Endwalker today. Component number 2 is me talking about playing it. Component number 1 is talking about me trying to play it, which is to many people listening to this of much greater import. So before launch came out for Endwalker, which came out 4 a.m. Friday morning in Eastern Standard Time on the 3rd, I want to say, they put out a statement. Like, I think it was the Wednesday. They just straight up, they put out a goddamn press release going, listen, it's going to be bad. We've tried everything. We've optimized the servers. We've replaced them with the highest end servers we can get, like within the facility, kind of thing. Like just, optimizing. We improved the everything we could. Tested it. We have all this shit working. We have all this practice. Blah blah blah. But the number one thing,
days to make up for
it. The number one thing that we wanted to do, which was buy more servers, just more, so people could either transfer or log in on different servers or start new characters on new server, whatever. Can't, because there's a global semiconductor shortage. And they even described that they attempted to do so for months and were offering like above cost like incentives if they could fill the order. There just isn't enough semiconductor related technology going around. It's just not happening. I see you furrowing your brow, Woolie, so I'm just going to step back one bit forward. Are you familiar with just-in-time manufacturing?
No.
Just-in-time manufacturing is a manufacturing component that's extremely technique that's very common in the electronics industry. It's called just-in-time because you don't want to be sitting in with warehouses full of stock waiting to sell it to people.
Okay.
So you gear up your operation and your factories to make exactly the right amount that you think you will need for the future.
Okay.
And then when Corona shuts down one link in that chain for 2 months, the entire fucking thing just completely falls to pieces. Yes. And there's no way to catch up because you don't have storage, you don't have the production capability. So that's what's happened. Rona has completely screwed up the global semiconductor market, and therefore Final Fantasy 14 cannot get new servers.
Well, I mean, shortages are across the board in different like industries,
and much more important things than FF14 servers. In one of the Reddit threads that I was reading, the guy's like working in a hospital, and he's like, "We have internet connectivity just going down in parts of the hospital because we can't replace the servers, not the server, the routers. Just can't get a new router, just straight up for the hospital."
Yeah,
and it's like the computers that tell each other if people are alive in different rooms. That seems like a detail that you would want. But regardless, so just-in-time manufacturing screwed that up. On top of that, okay, well, that's no big. Shadowbringers had a big launch. That wasn't a problem. Well, they released some, like, not super detailed population metrics, but some independent population metrics came out. Before the launch on Friday, traffic was up 35% from 6 months ago. Across the board.
Okay.
Just 35% more people. That's in response to Asmongold starting the WoW Exodus, basically, we're going to call it. Then the Activision Blizzard nonstop fiasco keeps it running, as well as the fact that I was talking with, I think it was Mr. Fields. We're talking about Riot versus Blizzard and how the news has been received. Riot got in big trouble for their sexual harassment problem and got sued by their state 4 years ago, right? And there's been little to no headway on them. And there haven't been any explosive news stories about Riot in that time. It's just, no, they're bad. They're still being sued. They're still working on it, in air quotes, right? And they're also releasing good stuff. On the other hand, Blizzard, just every fucking 2-3 weeks, there's like another little slap in the face, another little, oh, here's more, here's another one, here's a bonus. Literally this week, I don't know if you even have it in your goddamn notes because it's too minor, they started a ladder season in World of Warcraft Classic, where you're like, you start a new season, everybody starts a new character, and you try and go through it as fast as possible. And they have bonuses and gimmicks, except they let people import their old characters. And now people who have old maxed out characters from the old servers are just completely running around worlds in PvP, just killing all the genuinely new players. Like complete nonsensical design oversight. So you get...
Yeah, that wasn't on the docket.
Yeah. But you get server problems, then you get WoW Exodus, then you get HoloLive started to get into it. I don't know if you're aware of that. HoloLive started. So just
VTubers
all
are playing
these
now. Yeah.
Converging fan bases, as well as the fact that the Endwalker coverage has been very positive. And so you end up in the situation that has happened over the past couple of days, which is a unique situation. We have seen every type of live service MMO game go down, break, freak out, everything. FF14 is not having that problem. It is having a different and much more frustrating problem. If you log in at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning, you will log in like that. No problem. It will take you 30 seconds to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Every 5 minutes after 11 in the morning that you go to log in will add 1/2 hour to your queue.
Every 30 seconds?
Something like that. So if you try and log in at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, you're looking at a 5-hour queue. If you're logging in at 5 p.m. on a Saturday, you're looking at a queue that is functionally infinite. And you're dealing with queues that are so long that the number isn't going down because you're advancing in queue. The number's going down because people are giving up and leaving the queue.
Yeah, okay.
And then once it hits about 1:30 in the morning, everybody has to go to bed to go to work. Queue evaporates, and you can log in like normal. Jesus. The issue is they are having catastrophic login problems, right? 17,000 people per server simultaneous login. That's the total maximum. If you even try, it crashes you out of the game. It crashes the game, right? On top of that, the login process is sensitive to packet loss. And so say I got in at 3,900 and I've been waiting 2 hours to get in, and I hit 680. I'm like, I'll be in 10 minutes, right? Well, if there's just enough little packet wiggle, it'll disconnect me and crash me out of the game, and I have about 2 minutes to reach that login screen before it loses my spot, which to some people with some systems is not possible. Which means if you try and log in at 2 in the afternoon, it could take up to 5 o'clock till you get in. But then if you crash out at 4:30, you will not play today.
Oh man.
Like period. You will not play today.
Jesus Christ.
And on top of that, and this is the part that makes my heart hurt for these people, once you're in the game, the servers are completely fine. I have not had one lag spike. I have not had one technical issue that wasn't related to the game's windowed mode. It has been a totally immaculate experience, except for the fact, and for those of you watching the video are noticing that I'm sitting next to a PlayStation 5 controller, which I'm now wiggling. You have a 20-minute AFK timer, which you will have to babysit the entire day if you want to play at all. I'm streaming FF14 after we're done the podcast. I'm actually going to ask the podcast to raid me and get that done. I have to wiggle this controller every 5 minutes for the entirety of the podcast, or I can't do that stream.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. So I guess playing the new shit with your group and your friends is basically impossible because you can't sync up.
Except your friends are crazy. And this is where the problem lies. So there's 3 parts to this. Getting in. Your options are wake up early. That's the only option, aside from wait 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, right? Number 2 is staying in. They recently upgraded all their AFK timers. There's only one way to currently beat the AFK timer, and it's against TOS, which is to use a macro to like jump or run around randomly every 5 minutes. Don't do that. You could, if they catch you, you will totally ban your account. Don't risk that. But that's the only way. All the old tricks that people used to use to beat the AFK timer are gone. You can't get stuck in a shopkeeper. You used to be able to talk to NPCs and get stuck in a dialogue box, and that would count. That would count your character as active.
Okay.
Doesn't work anymore. You used to be able to do that by opening your HUD layout menu to change where your HUD is. That would count as an active prompt. Doesn't work anymore. Rubber banding your controller so that you run in circles.
Good old
does not work anymore.
Old Faithful.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
It seems to be counting different inputs, right? So once you're in, which includes all of my gang, as soon as you get in, you binge it like you've never binged it before. Because the only option you have other than binging it is wait until it's next week.
Okay. So the time off from work that people have been taking is not just dedicating to going through this whole thing and spending all the time with it. It's the buffer time for actually getting a crack at it together as well.
So today is significantly better because it's Monday.
And people are back to their lives. Yes.
Except tonight at around 6:30 Eastern will be the first weekday after the start of early access, and the day before the real access is going to be the worst the game has probably ever seen in its life. Because it's going to be, like, unironically maybe 15 million people coming home from work and just hitting it within 10 minutes of each other. I would not be surprised if the whole game went down.
I mean, if you, like, knowing that you were starting at a busy time, started a login process at, like, lunchtime, and then kept it in the queue, and then finished at 5 p.m., like, would that not be a reasonable... Is that, like...
Totally! If it didn't have a bad habit of crashing you out due to packet loss, and then you have to babysit the login queue.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's getting in, that's staying in, and then there's not wanting to leave, because there's certain times of day in which you go, oh, I have to take a shower. I need to eat. And you go, well, I guess that's it for me. Like, whatever time of day you say that is the last time you will play your game that day. So we had a fun situation here where Paige had to stream Guardians down here in this room on the computer setup that fucking 14 was running on. So while I took care of and distracted the dog, I'm like, Paige, can you please, while you're streaming your sponsored stream, can you please reach over to the Xbox controller and wiggle it every 10 minutes? And sure enough, the game crashed. And this is where the real nightmare comes in. People, depending on their driver, depending on their video card driver, can have DirectX 11 errors just like any other game. Except this time it might as well delete the game off your computer for a day. Right?
So then there's probably a lot of people who are, like you, sitting at their desk working from home and have it going on the side so that the moment they punch out, like, you're in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a different problem, right? Because it's one of those things that MMO players are great for the problems with game theory, because MMO game theory is like, well, reasonable actors would do this to maximize their enjoyment, yada, 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 right? Except MMO players are a really great example that they are not reasonable actors, right? If you wanted to do something and the thing said it will take you 4 hours in line and we may kick you out at random, the average person would go, fuck that. I'm going to go watch TV, right? And deal with this when it's not a problem. And some people do that. But enough people go, no, let me in right now, that it chokes it at every step of the process. Half the people I know who have to do anything of note are at work right now, forcing their login to stay so they can play later, which is taking up spot. I'm taking up a spot on my server for the next 4 hours before I actually do my stream. Because if I want to do the stream, I have to keep my spot.
I'm willing to go stand in a line once every 5 years or so and wait a long time to get something I really want, usually some form of gadget or console or some such. So there is a reasonableness that I feel I have towards that patience, providing the payoff is worth it.
And here's the final piece of the puzzle that makes it extra. Because if it was just a fun thing to do, that would be one thing, right? It's also, hey, Woolie, do you remember the MCU?
Yep.
Do you remember how exciting it was to watch those movies and have it build these little threads that would go somewhere? And then, oh man, Endgame's coming out. Cool. Now imagine the line you're describing waiting in is a line you would have to wait in every day for 10 days.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here on day 4, having gotten there so early to jump the line. I'm talking about my own experience. And you're looking at your friends list and seeing the freaks that you know and hang out with in Discord are cruising level 90 already because they're just not going to bed. And knowing that they're cool, right? But there's a percentage of people out there that have seen the credits as of like yesterday.
That was my question.
That I am now racing against their own idiocy before they spoil me. Usually when I do the podcast, I have the chat up there. I don't today.
Yeah.
I have my stream set to 1 month follower mode.
Okay.
And still 2 people got banned over the weekend.
Wow. Okay. Jesus.
Though I will say legitimately my favorite comment I have ever seen in my Twitch chat happened over the weekend, which was when I'm doing the level 83 trial, which is a storyline boss. Huge, big, important thing. And I look down and see a name I haven't seen in a while and goes, wow, you can play this game on controller? Cool. And the general response of like, what are you doing here? You need to go. You need to go right now.
That's pretty far. That's pretty far in. What does it like what is the fastest you can consume all of this new content from one login session? You know? Like
just don't log out.
But you said like 4 days?
How much it's approximately a regular length Final Fantasy game. So 40 to 70 depending. And people have crushed it already. Now, granted, there are people out there that skip all the cutscenes, which is obviously going to make it a lot faster. But you know Mom, right? Mom's girlfriend just posted on Twitter like an hour ago, like, can't believe how great it is. Wow, it was incredible. I'm looking at the end credits. And one of the artists that I follow messaged me, no spoilers, but I just hit credits, dude. It's incredible. Thanks for getting me into the game. And I'm like, you just hit... That was a message from last night.
Okay.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Holy shit. So it's all these factors, and I'm lucky. Every time I've gotten in, it's been a totally smooth experience. I happen to wake up at hours because of the dog that I can log in no problem, and I just play all day on stream and then a little bit afterwards. And it breaks my heart because in my chat, I'm looking at people going, I've been sitting here. I'm like at hour 7 of my stream, and people are going, I have been in queue this entire stream. I'm having a great time and the experience is totally smooth. But this is what I mean. Like, it's a unique situation because whenever a live service game or an MMO drops and there's like a disaster, it's always like everything is on fire. right? This is specifically, literally, the bouncer at the door to the cool club is just too strict.
I mean, I'm recalling the sound of pressing a button to then try to log into the closed beta and then getting an error message going burp, burp,
Yeah,
and
well, at
then
least for the closed beta for SF5, nobody got in. That thing was completely broken.
mash load burp, 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 you know, and like DBZ same thing.
Yeah.
You know, here go getting kicked back to that title screen, Guilty Gear for a minute. Just a bunch of these games where you're just the sound of hammering to get in at some point. Yeah, that's not fun.
It's why I wanted to bring it up first, because I'm going to be talking about how I think how great it is and how I've had no problems at all. Right? But this is very much a it works on my machine kind of situation. Dude, the situation with the server thing is so dire that Yoshi P put out a fucking statement that says please connect to your PC with an Ethernet cable, because maybe that'll help with packet loss and not get you dropped out of the server.
So hold on, you can play this game on console too, right?
Yes, you can. You can play it on the PlayStation 4 and PS5.
Same story?
Same story. It's all the same
servers.
It's all the same servers. In fact, the reason why it hasn't hit Xbox in ever is because I believe the old thing is that Xbox wanted their own servers and they didn't want to do crossplay like back on the 360.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, no, it's one game. We're not splitting shit. No.
Huh.
So it's probably going to come to the Xbox in like a year or something like that.
They just couldn't negotiate crossplay with them. Interesting. Usually they're the ones that are encouraging of it, and Sony are the ones that aren't.
Well, usually in the current time, the game's like 9 years old, right? We're talking back when it first launched on the PlayStation 3. And then just never worked out. And then they cut the PS3 support, so why would you have the Xbox, etc. I assume by the next expansion or with the next expansion, it'll also come to the Series X. Because it's an MMO, like splitting it between different platforms is stupid. It makes no fucking sense.
And then, but because the basis of this problem is a world situation that is completely outside of their hands.
Oh yeah, the only thing they could control is getting more servers, and it turns out that was actually not under their control either.
At all. Yeah,
it's a bummer because you play through the first two zones, and the first two zones you get a pick of which zone you want to go to first, and then it just kind of keeps you in them for a while before they cue you into anything, and that is to split the player base to different areas so that you don't run into the situation that I described to you 4 years ago called Raban's Wall, where every player in the game hit a single instance server and locked up for an entire weekend.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. That was way worse than this. Getting in was not the problem. You literally could not get more than half an hour into the game because every single player in the universe was hitting a single instance server to do a 5-minute battle with like named NPCs. It was a design issue. This is not a design issue. Yeah. They've designed it really well. You look at it and you're like, oh, I can see how this splits here and how the first dungeon is like 10 hours in. So to just really stretch it out, and the story is designed in a way that it keeps you interested, but it doesn't move you around. Like, wow, good job. Doesn't matter because I can't log in.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's not, like the one time, like not the one time, but like this is one of the few times where again, like there's nothing they can do about the situation. It won't stop that. I'm sure they're getting tons of fucking hate messages about it, and angry people are understandably upset. But like, this is not a fix that gets implemented. Like, in a couple of weeks or whatever.
There's no fix.
Yeah,
the fix is stop trying. Like, it's stop trying to log in is the fix.
Or when the world gets better for for them to be able to get the servers.
In course of this, the surge will be completely over by this weekend because enough people will be through and go back to their what I would call daily sessions of an hour here, an hour there, right? Instead of the Because it's a self-fulfilling problem, right? If you could log in no problem, people wouldn't be binging it in 12-hour stretches and keeping their characters in a perpetually logged in state. Right? It's like a crowd trying to escape a fire. If you all just calmly walk out, no problem. Everybody gets through in 2 seconds. But the instant you all scream and run for the door, you jam up and now nobody gets through.
Please stop trying to log in unless you really, really, really want to play.
That's what it is. There was a point where me and all of my friends were logged in simultaneously. And we're sitting here and we're theory crafting solutions and being like toxic. And we're like, you know what they should have done? If you had a 1.0 subscription, you should just get to the top of the fucking thing.
And like that is the on the Titanic as it's going down group of people trying to figure out how can we build a hierarchy to fucking to one up everybody around us. How can I step on these women and children?
And I don't even have a 1.0 subscription, but I suggested it because people that played that piece of shit should probably get to the top of the queue. And you're like, well, people that don't own Endwalker shouldn't be allowed to play. And that's true. Free trial players will not be able to play FF14 for weeks because they actually do get a lower login priority than paid customers.
No, yeah.
So they're not getting. If you were playing the free trial, enjoy your vacation from the game because you're not getting in.
Everybody becomes Billy Zane in Titanic.
Yeah.
Like after their first login queue gets kicked out. Yeah. Okay.
So that's that experience.
How is the content?
The content's absolutely immaculate. It is it's stellar in like Shadowbringers was like, you heard people gush about it. Like, I'm not going to talk about specifics, but you heard people go, oh my God, it's incredible. This is like the full step up from that like I rated, I went through a patch tier list and I rated like Shadowbringers an S. And it's like, I guess I just have to put this one at the top of the S chart so far because it's fantastic. The new zones are gorgeous. They're interesting to go around. The story content is incredible. And to that, I will not talk about the story at all, other than to say they used a great technique in hiding the story content of what is actually going on in Endwalker. It's a fucking great technique that I love. It's called putting out a trailer that is a lie. Just straight up fabricated events that don't happen.
It's good. Good.
There are parts of the CG trailer that loads with the game that not only don't happen, but can't happen.
Okay.
Like, that's the level of lie we're talking about.
We've rendered impossible scenarios.
It's very similar to you remember the Avengers trailer where it shows Hulk at all?
Sure, yeah.
And it's like that was a straight up just digital manipulation. It's like that.
Okay.
Where it's like,
good.
This didn't happen in this location. This isn't going to happen here, etc. Events are jumbled. It's the most deceptive trailer I've seen from a game company.
Awesome.
In a long time.
Because the goal of the trailer is to just get you hype. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
but like it's wild because the when you leave the game on the main menu, it loops the CG trailer. That's the intro to the game, and like you're watching it. I'm like, that didn't happen. Like I'm playing it right now. That didn't happen. This is a lie. Dungeons are so far. The dungeons are all great. They're all very interesting. The class changes, barring my personal favorite Dark Knight, which I switched out of, seem to be really happy. Summoners have finally, like, how do I put this? Yeah, you have the background knowledge for this. Woolie, you're familiar with an MMO pet class, being the class that just has a pet out that fights for you, a hunter, a warlock, etc.
Sure.
Usually they have a lot of dots, right? Well, Summoner is a very classic Final Fantasy job, and so it's in there. And for most of the game's life, it has been a pet/dot class. You had a little carbuncle, or maybe a little fake Ifrit that was looked like it was made out of rocks, right? And people didn't really like that because, like, in Final Fantasy, the Summoner goes to I'm summoning Titan. I'm summoning Bahamut. I'm summoning Meteor. Like just bam, 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 bam as like a big screen clear. And it wasn't the class that people associated with itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then they added Bahamut and they added Phoenix, and those were kind of like what I would call like class identity, but it wasn't what people wanted. They have thrown that class out. It's gone. It's completely gone. They have remade the whole thing from complete scratch, top to bottom, and now the new summoner is within a 70-second rotation. You're summoning out real Ifrit, real Titan, real Garuda, real Bahamut, real Phoenix. And every time you summon them out, they come out and do their screen clear.
Oh, that's cool.
And it affects your attacks. And it's like exactly what I wanted. And it's exactly what a lot of people wanted. And it makes me feel a little smug because my friend Vel that I play with constantly, he's the crazy one who does everything, the cool lightning kid. He's nuts. But like 18 months ago, we were sitting there complaining about Summoner, going, they should do this, they should do this, they should do this, they should do this. And then they did this, and this. Exactly like how we had imagined. I'm like, yeah, everyone is super smart. We're definitely not the only ones to come up with that idea.
Well, whenever you have to make changes to something to like weaken it for playability and or like I guess balance purposes.
Reality in some cases.
Yeah, that sucks. So even if you can like fake it but still make it look and deliver the feeling of like what's cool.
Yeah.
That's more important.
The other thing is that it's an MMO consideration that doesn't apply to a lot of other games, but you know, your skills are going to be just buttons on a bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you run into the issue if you have 4, 5, 6 expansions, everybody wants 1 or 2 new buttons every time. Problem is, you end up in a situation where you end up with so many buttons for your character, you can't even fit them all on a goddamn hotbar.
Well, you said 12, no?
12? Oh, no. So originally, you could have 16, and you could hold the triggers to get another 16 on the back. And for some classes, that's not enough.
Jesus Christ.
So then they introduced both hold the triggers to get to the back row and double tap them to get to a third row of 16. But that's kind of awkward. That's a lot.
Well, at that point, a keyboard sounds necessary.
Except the only way to get to your 40 keybinds is 1, 2, 3 to 0, and then shift 1, 2, 3 to 0, and then.
Okay.
So it's the same level of frustration.
Yeah. Okay.
And so one of the things they've done when they rework a class is they cut it down. They go, you don't need this one. This ability has now been rolled into this one.
Okay.
And in some cases, something that's very common with this expansion is they go, okay, this button, let's take Paladin. They have a big sword move called Confiteor, and it leads into Blade of Valor, and it leads into Blade of Justice. And it's literally 1, 2, 3 every single time. You will never, ever, ever do anything other than 1, 2, 3. So now that exists as one button. You hit it once, it turns into the second button. You hit it the second time, it turns into the third button. All that does is just cut down on button bloat.
So you tap 1, 2, or 3 to get layer 1, 2, or 3 of that button.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would do. So you know, I have Confiteor on right trigger circle. So to do Confiteor, Blade of Justice, etc., I would literally just do right trigger, hold right trigger, circle, 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 instead of the old one,
layer,
which was
switch
put it
to,
on square, triangle, circle, and go boop, boop, boop.
I would assume that everyone likes it when you merge abilities together and simplify this entire thing.
As long as the things that they were able to do remain.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they get combined and they like God, you know that old joke about Star Wars should have gotten rid of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan? They should have been combined to make one new character called Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Right? You don't want that for your button where you're like, well, Raw Intuition and Nascent Flash have been combined into one skill called Nascent Flash, and Raw Intuition no longer exists, as an example.
Right.
You want to keep whatever unique buttons you actually had. But yeah, no, that's all been great. The only people that I've seen are sad are people like me who used to play Dark Knight, who didn't get any cool new toys, and I don't play Dark Knight anymore. I'm sad.
Because like I feel just like on the level of like playing Darkest Dungeon, where they give a whole bunch of new options for each class to pick from for each of those abilities. I like seeing those boxes increase for each
Oh
class.
yeah, it's great. Right up
But
until you hit 32.
But the thing is that you in Darkest Dungeon you can't do them all at the same time. You have to pick the ones that you're carrying into battle, and I can't imagine you're going to need every single one of those specific functions.
The only so
You know?
they've cut so many fucking skills over the years that don't exist. Right now, there's only one. I have a summoner loaded up on my screen right now. There's a heal spell that I don't put on my bar. It's called Physic. It's functionally worthless. It's the only useless skill I still have.
But
Monks
it's great,
used to have.
but it's great for one specific raid or
It's
some
great
shit.
for when you're level like 2 to 10.
Sure, yeah.
And then it loses its usefulness, right? Monks used to have a situation back in, I want to say Stormblood, where they had two skills that were similar and one was just better than the other. And they were like, just take that other one off your bar. Just don't even use it. Just it sucks. Why would you ever hit that? I think it was called Six-Sided Strike. I don't. Somebody is correcting me, I'm sure. But cutting down on button bloat is great, and that's been good. The summoner stuff is great. It will take time for everybody to get the classes they like to cap and then start to complain. But the classes that people were complaining about before the game came out were Dark Knight and Scholar. Scholars seem happy. Good for them. Dark Knights are all miserable. Right, mostly miserable. I'm sure I can think of at least two people I know that play Dark Knight that will never not play it. But fuck, they didn't get anything. They got moves taken away. Actually, it's kind of a bummer.
I mean,
so that's all that. What's that?
No, I was just gonna ask if is some of the overlap like, say the difference between keeping Zeodyne or going with Mazionga, where it's like medium damage to a lot of things or big damage to one thing.
The analogy you're using is actually kind of dead on.
Okay.
Because so I played Dark Knight for 6 years. I love that class. And so they show off, and pardon me if part of this is going to sound condescending, but it is actually legitimately the best way to explain it. They show off, hey, tanks, defensive abilities. Guess what? We're going to institute a fighting game like parry system to your primary defensive tool, which is going to be Heart of Corundrum, Bloodwedding, or Holy Sheltron, which is you put up a defensive barrier that's going to last 8 to 10 seconds, and it'll give you a 10% damage reduction. But if for the first 4 of those seconds, which in a game that has a 2.5-second global cooldown is like pretty strict timing, you will not only get double the damage reduction, but you'll also get like a heal or a shield or what have you. So it dramatically incentivizes, if you're tanking, pay attention. Don't just pop your cooldown 15 seconds before it hits you. Pop it right before it hits you, and you'll get a bigger benefit. It's a cool little mechanic that makes tanking more fun.
Okay.
Its closest analogy is a Just Defense.
Yeah.
Which is block as late as possible. Right? Dark Knight's the only one that didn't get one. Just didn't get one. Out of 4 tanks, 3 get this new mechanic. Dark Knight doesn't get it.
Okay.
And on top of that, the one you went with Zeodyne or Maziodyne, where they took 2 abilities that you used to use separately and turned one into the single target and one into the multi-target version. So you'd never use them together.
Okay.
So if you're fighting a boss, you used to hit Carve and Spit and then Abyssal Drain. Now you'd be stupid to hit Abyssal Drain because they share the cooldown. They're essentially one move. And to replace the button that you took it off, they gave you a similar ability with a new visual.
That does other things.
And I'm like, I didn't get anything. You just took it away and then gave me a slightly different one that's the same.
Okay.
That sucks. Anyway, that's my Dark Knight. That's all you're going to get on Dark Knight. I don't want to go too nuts. Um, the bunny boys are here.
I
People
saw.
are turning into male Viera.
I saw. Some
I am
friends.
now a male Viera. I have to say, these bunny men look like sluts. Like there's no way around it.
Seems to be the goal.
They all just look like whores.
Hmm.
They're very pretty. They have two like dedicated eye options for like how long and defined you want their eyelashes to be.
Okay.
Like the male Viera have more eyeliner and eyelash options than the girls of every other playable race.
Very nice. Excellent. That's good.
And what's of great import to me because I hate clipping, they announced like they had a certain like crouch, not a crouch, like a not a hunch, like a slouch in the pre-release stuff. You might have noticed if you saw the video where they run, they're just like tilted a little bit.
I didn't.
They got rid of that. They now stand up a lot straighter because turns out when they did that original body position, tons of their own gear would clip into their own bodies. Like armor on their chest would clip into itself on the chest, which would look like there's clipping, obviously. Like
yeah, every
there's
game people
there's
don't
characters
care
with
about
tails
clipping.
in this game.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say at a certain point with a certain amount of armor and like body size changes, you kind of have to just give up on caring about clipping.
I still care, but it's funny to hear that the devs looking at like generic clothing were like, "Oh, this is way too bad. Like, can't do this. This clipping is outrageous." And you can imagine, like, if it's a character's like front torso clipping into its own front torso,
Yeah.
that means every cutscene that has your character in it's gonna look like complete garbage. So that's all great. The system changes they made are great. I just found out right before the start of the podcast, I was able to confirm it again, that the game is going to hold a gun to my head and force me to participate in what's known as the hunt train, which is groups of people running around killing, unique mobs for at least 2 months, because the special mount you get from it is a fucking bulldog.
Oh.
Like straight up a bulldog that you ride around on that has light brown coloring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you serious? Are you for real? The last time I didn't even, it was a triceratops. The time before that was a tiger. I don't give a shit. I'm not wasting my fucking time for that crap. But now it's a bulldog. It's got a big ugly mouth. I gotta have that. So there's all that. And then there is all I want to say about the story, which is almost nothing other than the fact that it has become so like, and by story I mean like scenario and also like encounter. It has become, it's hit the point where people are going, I can't believe I'm doing this in an MMO. I have engaged in like hour-long gameplay sections. Nah, not hour, maybe half-hour long gameplay sections that were from different genres. Completely.
As in the gameplay becomes something else?
Woolie, I will send it to you in your Discord because you don't care about this.
Like a Bayonetta genre switch?
It uses the game's existing mechanics, but it puts them into
a different context. Okay. Huh.
Do you see what I mean? That's not the kind of thing you would normally expect to deal with in a massively multiplayer online RPG.
Really? Okay. Inside of your story segments.
Your existing framework, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty cool.
And as for actual plot content, it has the best possible emotional state that I can think of for somebody who's always trying to guess what's going to happen or think they know what's going to happen. There's a difference between a big twist which of course any good story is going to have some kind of,
Unexpected
turnabout or whatever.
turns, sure.
And of course, this storyline has had a lot of great twists, but it has something more than that, which is the feeling of I don't know what we're doing anymore. I like I what are we, what are we going to do next? Like actually, what are we going to do next? With Shadowbringers, let's take for example, you land you land there and you immediately go, the light demons everywhere, got to kill all of them. Big bad's there. Here's the proposed solution. Here's the journey. And then each of those steps along that journey will have their own twists and such, right? Here is you get to a point in which you're like, I don't know where this shit is going at all. I have no idea where this is going. And part of that is that they put out patch notes for these kinds of things, and you always read through them, and they always block out stuff due to spoilers, right? They always have 6 zones, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in A Realm Reborn, everybody knew what they were. In Heaven's Word, everybody knew what they were, except one that they hid. Like in the patch notes, they said hidden, right? A little blurred out. But you saw it in the trailers. So you're like, okay. Right? And they showed it off in the live letters. So you're like, okay, yeah, I wonder where we're going to go next, kind of thing. Stormblood, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to here. Shadowbringers, you get there, and zone number 6 is hidden. Just completely. It's never come up once in anything. And then you get to zone number 6. Wow, didn't expect that. Right?
Mm.
You're looking at the patch notes for this, and you see, okay, there's Garlemald, great. There's Thavnair, great. There's Labyrinthos, great. There's Moon at number 4, and then hidden. Now, I don't know how much of the coverage of this you've watched, but it's been very Moon-centric. It's been very much Moon's haunted, get to the moon. And then you read your patch notes and go, except there's at least 2 zones worth of shit after that?
Okay.
Where could it even be? Like, I have the fucking encyclopedia in front of me on this desk, and I don't know what location it could be. You know, that kind of thing. It's kind of just kind of great.
Well, I mean, that actually, like, because that reminds me of like a larger question I've been having about this, and I asked it before, and of course it was always too early to tell, and it wasn't certain. But it's like, okay, so this represents the end of a long journey of content, and this is your end game, right? This is your closer to the buildup of all these previous expansion packs.
Mm-hmm.
This in no way signifies like the game itself coming to any kind of stop or close.
No,
then a new arc must, in theory, begin upon completion of this event.
So the way that it has always worked has been pretty straightforward. In 1.0, you establish an enemy faction called the Ascians as your primary threat, and that becomes the Ascian storyline, right? And that has been the storyline through the whole thing, is dealing with the Ascians and the Ascians' fucking stupid problems, right?
Ascians.
Yeah. However, that's your overarching big one, right? But you have your miniature ones, right? So in Heaven's Word, you're going to Ishgard to deal with dragons. In Stormblood, you're going to Asia to deal with rebellion, etc., right? But that big one is over the top of it at all times. And the way that it works is you get expansion content, 0.0, full game's worth of content, blah, blah, blah. Then you get 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.3 is the end of that expansion's story. So the final boss of Heaven's Word is in the patch 3.3, not at the end of Heaven's Word. Right? And then in 0.4 and 0.5, what they do is they set up the next expansion. So in Heavensward 3.4 and Heavensward 3.5, they start rumbling, maybe we're going to go to Asia. And then Stormblood comes out and you go to Asia, right? In Stormblood 4.3, you deal with that. And then in 4.4 and 4.5, they go, maybe we're going to go to Shadowbringers. And then in 5.0, you go to Shadowbringers, and so on and so forth, right? For this, which is 6, this is all of it. By the end of this one, it will be definitively completely done. And for the next patch, which will be in about 4.5, 5, 6 months, it will be the start of a completely new storyline to literally everything that has happened prior.
That could go for a couple years.
Probably 10 more. They've said they've got an idea for at least a bunch of expansions from now.
Right. So I just because I don't know. No, because
Sorry,
I don't know how an MMO handles like a transition into like something new, because this is where a sequel for any single player normal game would exist.
Yes.
Right? A new disc or a new whatever. A new title screen of some sort, you know. What do you, how does it,
I have my suspicions that the next expansion will have some kind of engine overhaul and move our characters so far away from our current locations that it will be start over.
Okay.
That is my assumption.
Could it be like a second button to click on when you log in that says go here?
That's how Phantasy Star does it.
Okay.
Like Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis literally is a new game that you can import your old character into, but they're going to start the new game at level 1 in the new games level. But that is pure speculation. I don't have anything to base that off of.
Because essentially, like, while it's simple enough to assume that, like, literally just log in and click, I want to play part 2, and then you start over in part 2, but while paying for the same sub, it's like, are people going to be upset at the idea of having to universally start over in a brand new location in a brand new way?
I think people would be fine with it.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, you just have like
the
load
game
up part 2. All right.
The game really, really badly needs a new client. They're still working off the tech that 1.0 was built with. Like it has problems. Like I could see a 7.0 like version of this game being like, take on the new story in Unreal Engine, and now we don't have to worry about the size of your glamour chest crashing the interface.
Well, that's going to need more than the same couple of months for the next expansion. That requires an overhaul.
No, expansions are years out, right? And it depends. And what it actually depends on is not time. What it depends on is how much money Square Enix is willing to give the 14 team to hire new technical staff to port over everything into a new fucking client. Right?
Okay.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yo, how cool would it be if you could, like, if you're playing a game like that and then, like, the sequel story setup is literally like a time jump, and then it's like, make a new character that's like the kid of your old one.
I want to point out that you're like halfway there with the game we're already talking about, because 1.0 to 2.0 is a time jump.
Okay, all right.
Of like a year or so.
That'd be a fun way to, you know.
Your kid?
Yeah.
That would, okay, let me tell you. If the storyline for this game in the next year starts to actually solidify some kind of romance system, you may be onto something. Okay? That would be cool.
That'd be cool.
I don't think it'd be the case. So yeah, Endwalker's great if you can play it. It's absolutely stellar, fantastic, slam dunk. You know when you're excited for something and that pit in your stomach starts to go, but what if they fuck it up though? What if they horribly botch it? What if it's
I haven't felt that in a while, but maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you start playing this for a couple hours and you're like, oh no, they're not botching this one. The last thing that I want to point out is that one of the things I said I took a little break last week before playing Endwalker, and I said, "Hey guys, do your job quests." I had a suspicion that the people you hang out with on your job quests were going to show up more in the story, and sure enough, people from your job quests are just everywhere in cutscenes, whether talking to you or in the background. Just like it has that end game kind of thing, but it's a little calmer. Where normally, hey, we're gonna have a big battle, right? Whatever, in anything. 9/10 of the people that you see are gonna be generic soldier man A through C, right? However, in this, if you were to have a large scale confrontation of some kind, not only would almost every single person in a 50-man brawl be a unique character that you've known for years, not only are they fighting in the background or with you and switching out, they are also like there's two types of background fights, right? There's the one where you see two characters in some kind of idle stance, like just smacking each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little more advanced than the guys fighting in the background on the Mortal Kombat bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's an entire encounter going on that I am not part of, that I can see the mechanics of happening like 100 feet away.
Interesting.
I'm seeing this person that I hung out with 4 years ago, and by person I mean character, having to deal with stack markers and spread markers and Ockmorn bullshit of total no use to me. This whole thing is being elaborated in the distance just to make the thing feel more real.
If you pay attention to it, you can see what they're doing. Yeah. Okay.
And there are at least a couple moments where they give you a room full of people that are all going to be helping out, that you can talk to every single goddamn one. And they have finally done it. I'm standing in a room as a warrior. That's the class that I'm playing. Sorry, the job that I'm playing. I am head to toe in tanking gear. And the white mage trainer comes up to me and goes, "Fucking sick. It'll be awesome having a good white mage along with us too." Because I also have white mage at cap.
Oh, okay.
Right? And just constantly, hey, did you do the Evilise quest line? Here's a detail that is being accommodated for because you did the Evilise quest line. Are you a Dragoon?
Payoff.
You will now get to hang out with the Dragoon member of your party and talk about being Dragoons. Even if you're not playing as a Dragoon right now.
Right, okay.
So people like me who did everything,
you get to see everything.
It's just constant.
Yeah, okay.
It's like every couple cutscenes, down to the fact that when I was filing in papers on an immigration form, I was able to put artisan because I have my crafters maxed out.
Cool.
Something that has nothing to do with the battle side of the game.
That's good payoff.
Yeah, I'm not going to have anything else to say after this other than next week I'm going to go like, yep, still good. Great story, best Final Fantasy, or some shit like that. Right? Or the servers burned down and we lost all our characters, so now this is the worst game of all time.
Well, if you hit the credits, you're fine. Just wait for the new.
No.
Wait for the new.
That could be it never. That's my speculation, Woolie. That's not a real thing.
Just get the image of the end of 1.0 where like that old guy is just roasting away into the white.
Yeah.
And now it's all your characters and your data roasting into the white. And it's a start over. Fuck it. But you get to smile at the end. He kind of smiles right before it fades away. Yeah.
So here's a good example. I had the ability to quote that dude at people this week in game as part of the storyline. That's how far back this stupid shit goes.
That's
I didn't even play 1.0.
That's a lot of buildup.
Oh, so yeah, good game if you can play it. It's the video game equivalent of good work if you can get it.
Okay.
Honestly. I also played a little bit of Halo. All I have to say about Halo is the difference between the Halo and Final Fantasy communities are fascinating. because both games, everyone is very mad right now because they can't play or they can't play the modes they want, whichever. The Halo subreddit was so bad it had to be closed over the weekend. It was getting real toxic.
Well, there's two definitions of can't play now, aren't there?
Right.
So
Yeah. And it made me laugh because I'm like, you closed it. What do you think's going to happen on Monday when you open it back up and all the things these people are incensed about are still there? And now they're just pissed off they couldn't post all weekend. Do you think they're going to calm down? No. Meanwhile,
So
at 14, it's like, listen, guys, like the overwhelming like opinion is I'm so fucking frustrated, but I kind of realize there's literally nothing they could have done.
that is insanely reasonable, considering the way the internet behaves when things go badly.
The team that built 14 has gained a lot of
Goodwill.
like goodwill.
Hmm.
Like when they spent one of the things that happened in Endwalker is they did a stat crush, which MMOs always have to do because eventually the stats are percentile based and they go hot too high and then shit starts to break. So they did a stat crush, right? I loaded it into the game and a move that used to hit for 90k now hits for 12. And my initial reaction is, oh no, they made me weaker, right? They spent hours going over the internal meetings and design processes live on camera as to why this needed to happen. And as a result, after the very first day of people complaining, oh no, I don't do any damage, it just all went away. Nobody cares anymore. Whatever, stat squish, who cares? Right?
Is a stat crush just like a buff, like a buff nerf?
It's literally just reorienting it. Instead of doing 1,000 damage, you do 100, but the enemy also has
less
health, like
yeah,
90% less health.
Right,
It's literally just moving down the numbers because they were running content that had percentile based shit that the numbers were hitting like damage caps and like breaking things, and they're like, okay, no, we cannot do an expansion where the numbers go even higher.
Okay, yeah,
like everything's gonna fucking fall apart.
Yeah. Darkest Dungeon rules, man. Keep those numbers low as fuck.
Oh, dude, I can really appreciate it.
God damn it, I bled for 2. Fuck.
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
Yeah. All right.
Good game. I like it. Gotta stay logged in.
Did you wiggle? I was gonna say, did you?
Yeah. Oh, see this? I'm wiggling my mouse.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna move my guy.
The light is changing in the room, so.
Yeah, no, you can tell, right? Like, it's very obvious.
Yeah.